President Joe Biden.
That's great. Yay!
Thank you. Are we ready? Well, first of all, I want to thank Alex and Betty. Give them a great round of applause for hosting us here in their backyard. And to all the volunteers who are here with us. And I want to thank one of the greatest members of Congress to ever serve. We are so blessed to have Jerry Connolly in the United States Congress representing us. I would also like to recognize the next First Lady of the Commonwealth of Virginia and my family, Dorothy McAuliffe. And I'd like to thank my great friend, Senator Mark Warner, for his introduction. His leadership as governor has set the standard for what Virginians expect, someone who will work with both sides to get results on jobs and education. His bipartisan leadership saved our AAA bond rating and resulted in the largest investment in K-12 education in Virginia history. And it's a legacy that we're all very proud of. And as Mark mentioned, we have been friends for 33 years. And he doesn't like to hear this, but believe it or not, I was his first boss 33 years ago. And he doesn't like it because I'm younger than he is. But folks, are we not blessed to have Mark Warner in the United States Senate and the work he has done? And his type of leadership is what we're going to do, and we're going to do it as a team. And I'd like to recognize the next Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Ralph Northam, who is here with us today. And the next Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Mark Herring, who's with us here today. Let me say this, folks. We are proud to be Democrats. But we're also proud that our ticket is focused on the mainstream issues. And this mainstream ticket is laser focused on the issues that matter to Virginians. Less traffic, great schools, and economic opportunity for the middle class. Before we get into the critical issues in this race, there was an important moment on Friday that really sums up the choice in this election. I obviously am not watching a lot of television these days, so I didn't see it live, but on Friday, Ken Cuccinelli actually went on Fox News to talk about his campaign. The host asked this question, quote, "Republicans bore the brunt of the blame for the government shutdown. Does that feel like it's a little more in the rear view mirror now?" And Ken Cuccinelli responded, and I want to quote exactly, "It is always frustrating to me the short memory span that folks have. But I'll tell you what, coming out of the government shutdown, I'm perfectly happy with that." So think about that for a second, folks. He's saying that he wants Virginians to forget the shutdown. He wants them to forget it so that they'll forget what he did. Well, that's not a surprise. Ted Cruz, the Tea Party Texas senator and architect of the government shutdown, took enough time off from causing gridlock in Washington to come to Virginia to campaign with Ken Cuccinelli. And while Ken Cuccinelli was there with Ted Cruz, he refused to speak out for the compromise or tell Ted Cruz to stop hurting Virginia. He stood with the Tea Party against Virginia jobs. In fact, a day later, Ken Cuccinelli tried to justify Cruz's actions. And when there was a bipartisan vote to reopen the government, Ken Cuccinelli refused to support it. He refused to ending the shutdown, folks. Now, quote, "He's perfectly happy with Virginians experiencing mass amnesia." Here's the bottom line. While he may cynically want everyone to forget the shutdown, Virginia's memory is better than that. We are not going to forget that Ken Cuccinelli sided with the Tea Party against Virginia families. Could you imagine if Ted Cruz, Ken Cuccinelli, and the Tea Party actually ran the Virginia government? But folks, it's not just the shutdown. Ken Cuccinelli has spent his entire political career on the Tea Party fringe. Think about this. The actions that he has talked about and done on women's health and so many other issues. But I'm blessed to be here with somebody who has fought on women's issues. We're lucky enough today to have the Vice President with us, And I'm sure you all remember that he was the original author of the Violence Against Women Act. Bipartisan legislation that was made it possible for law enforcement all across the country to better prevent and prosecute violence. Last year, that legislation was about to expire. 47 attorney generals wrote a letter. Even some of the most conservative Republican senators and most liberal Democratic senators came together and wrote a letter to Congress asking for it to be renewed. Only 3 attorney generals refused to sign that letter. Now, let's take a guess who one of those 3 attorney generals was. That was bad enough, but his excuses even made it worse. So now he's run out of excuses, and he still has not explained to Virginia voters, why is it, Ken, that you don't support the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act? It is a pattern, as we know. Ken Cuccinelli has focused his entire career on issues that divide Virginians. He has attacked women's health care access, the Social Security that you've paid into, and scientific research. I can make a promise to you right now. Mark Herring, as Attorney General, will never sue the University of Virginia on climate change. Because we're focused on issues that bring Virginians together, improving education and creating good-paying jobs. The Tea Party ticket proposes an ideological and irresponsible tax plan that could lead to a budget crisis and devastating cuts to education. And now E.W. Jackson says that he and Ken Cuccinelli want to eliminate the corporate income tax in Virginia. Our mainstream ticket thinks that the budget should be based on common sense, fiscal responsibility, and investing in our shared priorities like the best education system. Their Tea Party ticket has demonized gay Virginians and tried to restrict a woman's access to birth control. Our mainstream ticket believes that Virginia should be open and welcoming to all. And that women should be able to make their own health care decisions. Their Tea Party ticket is proposing an education plan that would divert money from our public schools. I promise you, as governor, we will not take a penny out of our public schools, but we will invest in our public schools. And we'll invest in pre-K, early childhood development, so all of our children have access. And teacher pay. When you take average Virginia pay to average teacher pay, we rank 50th out of 50 states. Folks, we want to recruit and retain the best teachers to teach those STEM courses earlier. When I'm governor, we are going to pay our teachers what they deserve to be paid. And we are going to reform the standards of learning because this high-stakes multiple-choice test at the end of the year is not working. We want our children to be learning to think cognitively, creatively. So let's reform those standards of learning. And let's invest in our community colleges. And I'm proud to say I've visited all 23 community colleges in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Their Tea Party ticket views bipartisanship as betrayal, and they actually oppose the transportation plan, which will allow all of us to start reducing gridlock. Ken Cuccinelli actually said he would kill the Silver Line after it was halfway completed. Aren't we about getting folks out of cars and into mass transit? Is that not better for Virginia? And I think it's a great thing that the Metro is going to go all the way to Dulles Airport and all the way into Loudoun County. Let's support our Silver Line. Our mainstream ticket views bipartisanship as a necessity because issues like job creation, folks, those aren't partisan issues. You know, it was Republican Lieutenant Governor Bill Bolling who said, quote, "This is not just the most conservative ticket, it's the most ideologically driven ticket we have seen in the history of our state." The truth is, though, it misses one important point. Those on the ideological extreme, they are motivated to vote. The question in this election is simple. Will the mainstream bipartisan majority in Virginia be drowned out by the Tea Party? No. If mainstream Virginians from both parties don't turn out to vote, you're letting the Tea Party decide Virginia's future. That's why I need your help now more than ever. Get out the votes. And let me just read you a couple important statistics. We have already knocked on, just last weekend, we knocked on 285,000 doors. And we have broken every record in the history of gubernatorial campaigns from the beginning of the year till today. We have knocked on a total of 1.8 million doors, thanks to your help. So let's get it to 2 million by Election Day. That's why we need you out here today, folks. Let's hit those doors. It is so important. I promise you, if you go out in the next 24 hours and help us win, I promise you that Mark Herring, Ralph Northam, and Terry McAuliffe, we will work our hearts out for you over the course of the next 4 years. You know why it's important? Because we need that intensity that we had last year. We must keep Virginia a leader in higher education. We must attract the best jobs in the world. We must expand health coverage to 400,000 Virginians. We must invest in education, teachers, and students. We must protect voting rights for all Virginians. We must be a state where gay Virginians are treated equally. And we must make sure that women have access to the health care that they deserve. Are you ready? Well, let me say this. The leader who is here with us today understands the struggles that middle-class families are experiencing. Why? Because he has experienced them himself. As his hometown experienced job losses, his family had to move from Pennsylvania to Delaware to survive. He knows the value of education because it provided him with a path to success. And he has spent his time in the United States Senate and as vice president fighting for others to have that same kind of opportunity. He has never forgotten where he came from. As I said, he is the senator who authored the Violence Against Women Act, a historic accomplishment that signaled national seriousness about preventing and prosecuting violence of all kinds. It's an accomplishment that almost every leader in America supports. And and as many of you know, he is the husband of the incredible Dr. Jill Biden. In addition to her work for military families, Dr. Biden is also a professor at the Northern Virginia Community College. Please welcome back to Virginia, the Vice President of the United States of America, Joe Biden.
Well,
yeah, Joe.
I guess the secret's out. Thank you. Thank you.
Joe.
Thank you all so very much. Well, you know, that's unusual for me, I know. As I pointed out before, no one ever doubts that I mean what I say. The problem is sometimes I say all that I mean. Ladies and gentlemen, in full disclosure, Terry just acknowledged or pointed out the real reason I'm here. He's going to be my wife's boss. And I'm scared to death that if I wasn't here, I'd be in real trouble. I may go home and sleep alone. Look, first of all, let me thank the Rodriguez family. Can you imagine how they felt? They said, you might have a little thing in your backyard on Monday morning. It means you got to get up at 2 in the morning and clear the house out. And Secret Service is moving in, and but they did it anyway. So the Rodriguezes, thank you all very much. And you know what? You know that old expression that's overused, but it's true in the southern part of my state and many parts of your state. They talk about marrying up. This boy did marry up, my God. When he turns to introduce his wife, I always think it's his daughter. And his beautiful family. And besides, he got an all-American son who's about to, in the next 20 years, become CNO of the United States Navy, who is in the Naval Academy right now, and probably tearing his hair out, wondering why he can't be out knocking on doors with you all. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to know that it's a great pleasure to be here with Jerry Conley. I used to work for Jerry. He was on my staff for years, but I always thought I worked for him. And he's turned out to be just a great congressman in spite of working on my staff. there's not much you can say about Mark Warner. I've been doing this a long time. I did pretty well in my home state of Delaware. I got elected 7 times and remained relatively popular. But I've never been in any state, and I mean this sincerely, where everything is measured. I mean this, now think about this, where the success of public officials in the state are measured against the standard of whether or not they live up to the standard of Mark Warner. It's pretty amazing. It's a pretty amazing phenomenon. And, you know, I haven't known Terry as long as Mark has known him, but I've known him for a long time. But as that old saying goes, I knew him before I knew him. And by that I mean, I went to school. My deceased wife was from Syracuse, New York. And I went to school in Syracuse. And I lived right next to Terry's neighborhood. So although I didn't know the McAuliffes, I knew the McAuliffes. I know the neighborhood. I mean this sincerely. It's a neighborhood of hard-working people. It's all about neighbors, loyalty, work, and responsibility. That's what it's about. I mean, it's real. It is like you can taste it. And Syracuse has been through some tough times. People up there have seen tough times. And they reward people who are responsible. These are the same basic roots that run very deep in this great state of Virginia. It doesn't matter what the accent is. It matters what the accent is on. And the accent's it's always been, I really mean this about it, where he comes from. I'm not joking. It's all about responsibility. It's all about responsibility. And, but I want to make it clear, I'm not just here for Terry. I'm not here just because I'm a Democrat. I'm here because this race matters well beyond the state of Virginia. Well beyond the state of Virginia. And folks, that's not hyperbole. That's the God's truth. This race has captured the attention of the entire nation, not just because it's an off-weather race in a bellwether state that has become sort of the face of the new progress in this country, but because it's the first major race between the forces and faces of the new Republican Tea Party, a Tea Party whose social recidivism is outdone only by its hostility to science and technology, innovation, and scholarship, led by a candidate whose views on women, you know them well, but I think it's fair to say, are from another era. I mean, literally from another era. I think the motto of the Tea Party should be back to the future. Because think about it. Think about everything they're talking about. Everything they're talking about. It's about undoing the progress that the vast majority of the American people think was progress. A candidate who was Attorney General sued one of the great, no, I really mean this is amazing to me. It really is amazing to me. Sued one of the great research universities in the world because three professors looking at science made a judgment he disagreed with. As my grandpa Finnegan would say, Thomas Jefferson's rolling over in his grave. No, think about what your state is known for. You all take it for granted when you're outside this state, what you're known for. This is antithetical to everything this great state has been known for throughout its history. You know, Mark, after the course you set for this great state, and I really mean it, you set this state on a course that is making it one of the research hubs of the world, a leader in innovation, science, and technology, a home of some of the leading academic and high-tech institutions in the world. Virginia and what you've done for it is rivaled only by the I-28 corridor of Massachusetts and Silicon Valley. And no, but it's a fact. You know, sometimes, you know, you say that so much, but it's a fact. And here's the generic point I want to make. Think about whether or not, with the attitude of Cuccinelli and his ticket, if they were to win, what that will say to America and what that will do to attracting the continuation of this great tradition in the state. You know, they're going to need not only to eliminate the corporate income tax, they're going to have to give them stipends to come to this state. No, seriously, Mark will tell you, corporations make judgments about where they are going to headquarter based on a lot more than the tax system, based on the education of the public, based on how sophisticated the public is, based upon the commitment of a state to innovation and change. These guys are the antithesis, the absolute antithesis of change and progress. Everything they talk about, without exaggeration, is about turning back what the rest of the country and the world thinks is progress. It's hard to fathom. It's hard to fathom this state being led by a man who rejects all that this new thinking stands for. So the whole nation is looking at this race. And again, that's not hyperbole. The whole nation is looking at this race. And folks, it comes down to you. It really is all about turnout. There's only one place the Tea Party can compete with us, and that is they do turn out their base. They do turn out those who share those views out of the 30s and 40s and 50s. They do, and that's what it is. So don't take this for granted, man. This is an off year. I know you're used to off-year elections, but an off-year election where the other side will generate every single solitary Tea Party sympathizer in this state. They will show up. So it's all up to you. It's up to you people in this backyard and backyards all across this great state. It's not hyperbole, it's a fact, because after all the TV ads and debates and everything else is done, this election is going to be decided by votes, people showing up, people getting driven to the polls. And what I don't want you to do, and I mean this sincerely, I've been hanging around a lot. I've seen races that are supposed to be walkaways, and they end up being decided by 300, 500 votes, 1,000 votes, 2,000 votes. Don't be one of those people who've worked all this time to elect Terry and this ticket. Don't be going to bed on Tuesday night thinking, if I had knocked on 10 more doors, if I had knocked on 20 more doors, if I had taken 5 more people to the polls. You don't want to be there. And you can't let the nation get there. Ladies and gentlemen, this choice is between someone who will govern in the tradition of Mark as well as Tim Kaine, and someone who wants to govern in what they hope to be a new tradition of Ted Cruz and the folks that are not even, I don't know how you put them on the spectrum. And I mean that sincerely. I mean that sincerely. You remember Ted Cruz just gave us the shutdown that Terry talked about. It cost the United States of America 120,000 new jobs in that short period of time. It cost the United States of America and American taxpayers $24 billion. And it hurt this state more than any other state in the Union. So the choice is between someone who trusts women to make their own decisions, someone who understands and trusts hard-working folks that if you give them a clear shot, they can do anything. Ladies and gentlemen, a guy he's running against is the loudest voice in America against health care for women and access to it. Choice between, if you could ever say it in any race I've been involved in, and I've been in a lot, between the mainstream and the extreme. That's what this choice is about. Ken Cuccinelli, one of the only attorney generals, has pointed out to not sign a letter on a consensus issue. When I wrote this law back in the early 90s, there was a lot of division. But over the years, there's absolute consensus, overwhelming consensus. And this guy decides the Violence Against Women Act is somehow violates some principle he holds. Ladies and gentlemen, In my view, that alone would disqualify from him being governor of this great state.
Yes!
So folks, you've heard it all before and you're getting chilly out there, but Terry's no ideologue. He's a practical guy. He's a businessman. He knows how to get things done. And he knows that it's all about not just jobs, but 6 out of 10 jobs in the next 10 years are going to require a degree beyond high school. 6 out of 10 new jobs. Terry understands that. That's why I always focus on education, infrastructure, technology. This is the last thing I want to say to you. The neighborhood Terry and his brothers come from is a middle-class neighborhood in a traditional sense. This is where he grew up. This is where he's lived. This is where initiative and hard work is rewarded. This is a guy, you've heard the story. It's almost like Abe Lincoln and, and splitting rails. But he really did. Start a driveway company as a kid. To take care of himself and to take care of other people. You know, Terry knows what my dad repeated oft times. Terry mentioned my dad after, in the early 50s, there was no work in Scranton. Coal had petered out. There wasn't much up there, so we moved to Wilmington. And from that time on, whenever I hear somebody lost a job, my dad would say one thing. He'd turn to his kids, he'd turn and say, Joey, remember one thing, and I mean this sincerely. A job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about your respect. It's about your sense of yourself and your community. This guy feels that in his bones. That's why I unhesitatingly support him. I trust the guys who start off with the feeling in their gut, work it through their heart, and then can articulate it through their head. That's who this guy is. He's smart as hell. He's tough. He knows how to get things done. But at his root, it's all about his roots. It's all about the middle class. That's what built this country. And the entire future depends upon access to good jobs. And Mark Warner started the stampede here. Think of all of the high-tech, modern, incredibly innovative companies that are beating a path to the door of this great state, throughout the state. And imagine how it will slow their run to this state with a governor like Ken Cuccinelli. And I'm not commenting for the press on whether he's a good guy, bad guy, moral. He just has views that are completely antithesis to where this nation has to go. So folks, as I said, don't go to bed tomorrow night asking yourself, why didn't I do just a little bit more? It's important for the state of Virginia. It's important for the industries of Virginia. It's important for the defense industry in the state of Virginia. It's important to have a man who understands what's going to grow this state and this country. So folks, go get him. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. About to do something really good. Hi, how are you? What's your name?
Shake his hand if you can, Cindy.
I'm right here. It's okay.
You're tied up there. All right, then I'm going to get everybody in trouble because I'm supposed to. I got to get everybody. That's the guy who. Sorry.
This could get dangerous.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I get you.
It's my fault.
I am. I was there. Matter of fact, I was there with my granddaughters at 11:30 mass yesterday.
My sister, I haven't been going there since I went off to college, but my sister got confirmed with her grandson.
Oh, is that right?
I'm so sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're all here to canvass, right? You're not going to go to sleep tonight wishing you hadn't done 10 more doors? No, you're not. You're going to get out the vote for Terry. You're going to get out the vote for Mark. You're going to get out the vote for Ralph and for Stacey Kincaid all across Fairfax County. That's right. All right, you see those signs? Terry McAuliffe's staff is holding red signs that have the number on your ticket. You were given a voucher at the beginning of this event to canvass. Please turn around from the stage and look at the staffer holding the red sign. Go to that station with the number on that ticket. Go to the station with the ticketed number. If it says Training Station 1 on your ticket, go to number 1. If it says Training Station 2, go to number 2. You don't want to go to sleep tonight and say you didn't do more. You don't want to go to sleep tonight and say you didn't do more. Go